Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the undergraduate webinar series, an interactive online platform connecting high school students to the Ashoka community. I am Vrinda Tandon. I work with the Office of Outreach at Ashoka University. Thank you for joining our session today on Ashoka's holistic undergraduate admissions, specifically the process, application form, essays, and assessments. Joining me today is Ms. Marcia Prince, Director, Office of Admissions at Ashoka University. Together, we will be addressing some of your queries about the Ashoka undergraduate admissions process. Before we get started, I would like to inform our audience that the deadline for round 2 of Ashoka's undergraduate program is 15th of January 2025. You do not have to wait for your 12th board marks or COET to apply. You can get a confirmed offer of admission and scholarship even before your final board results are announced. I would also like to mention to the audience to feel free to post any questions you may have in the Q&A box. We will be taking them up at the end of the session. Now, without further ado, let's get started. Over to you, Masha.
Thank you, Vrinda. Good evening, everybody. Just apologize in advance for a bit of a sore throat that I have, but hopefully we'll get through this well. I'll share my screen with you. There we go. Is this good? Okay. So I'll just walk you through what I'm going to talk about today. But as you know, Ashoka University, its undergraduate programs are in the fields of natural sciences, social sciences, and the humanities, right? And it is a completely residential space, so it's also very multicultural. Students live there for all the years of their undergraduate program. So what I want to talk today is just run through the first three is what I'm going to kind of focus on, and then very briefly on the fourth point. So I'll just talk about a holistic liberal education, and then the undergraduate academic programs, what you can look forward to. And then I'll spend considerable amount of time talking to you about the application and admissions processes because your deadline is coming up. And then briefly, I'll talk about need-based scholarships that we offer, which we will have another webinar, I believe, next week that you can know more about. So this is the overview of my presentation. We'll take questions at the end. But as Vrinda said, please feel free to put down your questions in the Q&A box so that we can sort of collate them and address as many as possible. Okay, so let me just get into it. The concept of a liberal education is a very ancient one. It's not something that's new or recent or even, say, American. So if you're not aware of a liberal education model, pedagogy, then I'd recommend students in particular to look it up and look at the ancient education systems, particularly in the Greek system. So in Greece, ancient Greece, particularly also, maybe you can look at ancient Indian, ancient Chinese. So if you look at it, you'll see that in order to be a good citizen, one had to have a certain kind of an education. And that education was very holistic. And it covered various aspects for people to be well versed in so that they could eventually become good citizens, right? And with being good citizens comes having responsibilities and duties towards your people, towards your country. And so that's sort of the historical background. So what I first want to focus on very quickly is the program itself, the Ashoka Liberal Education Program, right? It's a 4-year program with a BA, BSc honors. There's an aspect of research. If you wish, you can do in the 4th year. I'll talk a little bit about that. So essentially, it is a 4-year program. There is an option to exit at the end of 3 years, but primarily we are a 4-year program. So that's the big shift that has happened with the education policy that has recently come out, which you're probably aware of. And within the Ashoka pedagogy, the aim is really that students will get a intellectual grounding, academic grounding, but one that is intellectual, through a very multidisciplinary and an interdisciplinary learning module, right? So the courses, the programs, the classes are structured in a way that you get to explore a lot of breadth. You get to explore a lot of disciplines, and then you decide what you want to major in. You declare your major at the end of your third semester, so you've got 3 semesters to really explore, and then you focus on your major, right? And so I'll walk you through the majors in just a bit, but this is really what your education is going to be. It's going to be a very strong and firm intellectual grounding through this very multi and interdisciplinary learning methodology. At Ashoka, you also get to design your own journey, right? Because you may have a lot of students majoring in a particular discipline, but how you get there, what are the courses you do, will not be exactly the same. So you get to explore a range of other disciplines as well. So your journey will be your journey. And apart from your academic journey, you will also be exploring other aspects, right? Clubs and societies and other interests, and learning new things or exploring new concepts and ideas. And so your journey will be very unique to you. And as I mentioned, it's also a fully residential program. So you're going to spend more time with your peers, with your seniors, with your juniors, with each other, far more than you will be spending possibly even with faculty members, right? Because it is a 24/7 campus, and you get a lot of opportunity to really interact with each other. So what does the program really focus on? And I'll just quickly walk through this. The Holistic Liberal Education program focuses on critical thinking. You may have heard this term a lot because it's something that we've often and always talk about. The ability to think critically does not mean to have a sense of cynicism, but it really means to be able to look at anything from various perspectives. And, whether the perspectives are positives or not, or difficult or not, or complex or not, you have the opportunity to look at things from various perspectives. And in order to do this, you'll have to do a lot of academic reading and academic research work, and then eventually academic writing, which is why if you've already looked at the application form, you'll note that we ask you about what you read. We're very curious to know the extent to which you're comfortable with reading. Another big aspect of the Ashoka education is really collaboration, right? It's like I said, you spend a lot more time with your peers, so you're learning from each other, but you're also working together. So teamwork, collaboration are very important aspects of the Ashoka education. You'll notice that in your classes, you'll notice that in your assignments, you'll notice that during like exams. Not a lot of courses have exams. A lot of them have assignments that are projects or papers, working together with your peers. The aim also is that you spend time analyzing, right? Not just reading and giving exams, but understanding and analyzing and finding ways to problem solve or finding ways to innovate or think of real life problems around you and how they can be addressed, right? So we're hoping that this education will really allow you to have a social sort of impact focus where you'll be able to look at the world around you and see what can be what are some problems and how they can be addressed and what can be done in these avenues and areas. And then, of course, as you live in a community, as you live in a residential program, you're building your social skills, you're building your other skills that sort of allow you to really navigate life and navigate people. It helps you develop your areas of interest so you can learn new things, you can maybe explore new, extracurriculars or interests or hobbies, or also develop areas that you really are passionate about and take them forward and participate in a very active community life. So that's really the hope that we have that Ashoka will offer you. And so if you look at this and you think, this sounds like something I would really enjoy, this sounds like a program that really focuses on learning and focuses on me developing myself, me discovering more about myself, and me allowing whatever I learned to bring about things or make changes, not just in myself, but also in my community or in the world around me. Then I would say that this is a program that would be really good for you. So as you consider this, let me just quickly walk you through the actual program itself, the way this is done, because now you've seen what we do, but how it's done really is through its academic curriculum, right? So like I said, this 4-year program, you can do it with research or without research. But the mandatory courses are foundation courses. You have 9 mandatory foundation courses that all students have to do, regardless of what they eventually major in. Then you have the major that you pick and the courses toward that major that you will have to do. So those are mandatory courses, and a huge number of your credits are towards your major courses. Your foundation courses also have a considerable amount of credits attached to them. Co-curricular courses, there are 2 that you need to do, which are also mandatory. And then now there's an internship component that all students have to do. It's either for like a mandatory requirement of 2 credits, but it could go up to also 4 credits, which you have to do, like the 2 credits for sure you have to do as part of your requirements to graduate. What are your optional courses that you could do? You could consider doing a minor. You could consider doing a concentration. You could consider doing electives. So a minor is 6 courses, a concentration is 4 courses in a particular discipline. Or electives are single courses that you really think are interesting and you may want to do. Or there's an independent study module if you want to do a particular course and it's, a professor is offering it as an independent study module, and you can do it with them. And then, of course, the research component. So if you're interested in research, where you really want to work on a project of your own, then in your final year, in the 4th year, in the major that you are pursuing, you can do a 12-credit research paper, which is equivalent to 3 courses. So in place of 3 courses, you can do the research component with the supervisor who is a faculty member. So this is broadly what your program would look like. Let me just run through. You can just have a look at these courses, foundation courses. As you can see, they're across disciplines and across areas and fields of study. So I'll let you have a look at this. So you may not have studied science in school in class 11th and 12th, but you've got to do one in Principles of Science. You may not be someone who, likes to read too much, maybe fiction or novels, and you think, that's not really me. But you've got to do great books, you've got to do literature in the world. Or you may think, I'm a little worried about mathematics, and math is really not my area of, expertise. But there will be a course in quantitative reasoning and mathematical thinking that you'll have to do. So as you can see, and then of course everything else. So these are very interesting courses, but these are really the courses that will give you the foundation of an Ashoka education. And then, like I said, we've got majors. So we've got pure majors and interdisciplinary majors. So as you can see the list of pure majors, we added international relations recently, sometime in the last year. And the rest are, you can see the majors are in the sciences, the humanities, the social sciences. So those are the pure major departments. Interdisciplinary majors are majors that are from 2 different departments, but come together, and they are created in a way where the disciplines sort of speak with each other or speak to each other. And the program is created in that sense. So you'll see like economics and history, right? Or psychology and philosophy. So, English and creative writing. So as you can see, here's a list of interdisciplinary majors. The one that we added very recently was economics and public policy. And there are some others that are that will be added over the course of the next few years. There are some requirements for mandatory requirements towards mathematics And for physics, you need physics and mathematics towards these majors. You can look them up. They're all on the website. And if you have any particular questions, I can take those later. But we've also made an avenue for those who don't have mathematics and want to pursue these majors. There is a way, which I can again discuss a little bit later, but it is not easy. It has very high requirements, and so you can read up about that as well. Okay. So just a quick look. As you can see, here are the minors. Minors are not mandatory, but there are some interesting minors that you can do here. So you could do a major in, say, physics, and then you can do a minor in performing arts. Or you can do a major in political science, do a minor in Sanskrit studies, doesn't matter. You can decide what you want to do. A minor, like I said, is 6 courses. But all pure majors can also be minors, right? So for example, you could be doing a major in economics, but you want to do a minor in philosophy, which is also a pure major. You can totally do that. So all pure majors can be minors as well. Co-curriculars, like I said, you have to do any 2, which are mandatory. And so as you can see the list here, they're very interesting. There's performing arts, there's film, there's art, there's languages, photography, theater, and sometimes they'll add some others as well. So these are your co-curriculars. Okay, so given the fact that there's so many options at Ashoka, and you can mix and match and have a journey of your own, based on that and the fact that it is a residential program, the fact that it requires you to do a lot of reading and writing and research work. So based on everything I have said this far, the admissions process is also created in a way to find students who will do well in a program like this. So we don't want you to think about it just as, oh, it's a good university, I'll get a degree, I'll get admission. We really want to ensure that you would fit well, you would do well, you would make the most of all the opportunities, and you would also thrive and succeed, because Ashoka is very academically rigorous. So if you think that, it's just about getting a degree, I'd say that you may want to think a little bit again. But it is a very rigorous program, but if you're up for the challenge, I think Ashoka will be a great place for you. So this admissions process is really based on what happens on campus. And so the selection process allows us to find students who will do well at a place like Ashoka. Okay, so broadly, this is the admissions process. So we have one admission cycle, 3 rounds, and it's a repetitive process. As you know, we open the forms in October, I think October 10th, and we have 3 submission deadlines. We're already done with one. I'll just show you the calendar in just a minute. And we have 2 more deadlines coming up. So the next one is in January, as you know, this month. The process that happened in round 1 for those who applied then will be the same process for those who apply currently in round 2 or in round 3. You cannot apply more than once. So you can only submit 1 application form in an entire cycle. So please ensure that, if you've already submitted an application form, that you don't submit one again. And if you are submitting your first application form, make sure that it's submitted well and completely, and you fill in and finish all the requirements, so that there is nothing lacking from your side. So you submit an application form in stage 1, and then you have assessments. So these are mandatory assessments. You've got the on-the-spot essay and an aptitude assessment. Once you're done with your app submission as well as your assessments and your application form are evaluated. So they are read, each aspect of the application form and the assessments are assessed, and then there's a shortlisting of candidates for the interview. The interview is also mandatory. It's with the panel. It's all online. You'll be sent all details if you're shortlisted. If you're not shortlisted, then you will be informed as well. And then your journey would end there. But if you're shortlisted for the interview, then you move to the next round, next stage, which is the interview stage. And then after your interview, the admissions committee does a holistic evaluation of every candidate based on their application form, based on their assessments, based on their interview. and then they send out final decisions. So stage 3 is the decisions, and if you get an offer of admission, then you can apply for need-based scholarship, right? Or what we also call financial aid. And then you make the decision of whether you want to accept or decline the offer of admission. So this is broadly the admissions process overview. What I'm going to do briefly for a bit is walk you through the application form, because I think that's a very important aspect. But as you can see here, we are currently between December 8th and January 27th. So we are now interviewing students who applied in round 1. But if you have not applied, which I'm guessing you haven't, since you're here for this session, then the date that you need to remember, or the dates that you need to remember, are January 15th, where is the round 2 submission deadline, and January 25th, where you will take the assessment. So please note, normally we do our assessment date on a Sunday, but January 26th is a national holiday. And so this time is going to be on Saturday. So January 25th is a Saturday. So we just, please make sure that you plan accordingly, right? More details will be sent to you about the assessments. And so if you apply in round 2, then you will get to know your decision on April 9th. So this is the process, and then the rest is all on the website, so you can have a look. So a few guidelines, very quickly. Some of this I've just mentioned. I just want to highlight some. Please ensure that you do not submit a duplicate application, like I mentioned, but also don't plagiarize, don't copy paste, because if you copy paste from different places, or your essays or parts of your application form, then we will not consider it. So also please note that we are very aware that you have access to the internet, to ChatGPT, and so essays are very can be very easily produced. But the team is also very trained to read essays. So while we'll know that your essays are AI generated, they're not really helpful for you or for us. What we're really looking for is for you to fill your application form by yourself. You can always get help, right? Whether it's online help or help from family or friends, but we would really like to get to know you. The purpose of our application form is to get to know you, and so we really request that you spend considerable amount of time. And so 2 to 3 weeks is a good amount of time. You don't have that much time now. I think you have a little over 10 days. And so hopefully that'll be sufficient if you have not yet started your application form. Make sure that all your details are correct. Whatever attachments you're putting and the details that you're mentioning should be in sync. So that'll be very important. There are lots of help boxes. Any sort of help that you need, you can look on the form, or you can also reach out to our team, and we can, someone or the other will help you out with any questions or help that you need, right? So before you submit, check and review your application and then submit it. Please use a personal email ID and not a school email ID. Have something that you have access to for the next few years. And once you've submitted your application form, then definitely take the mandatory Ashoka assessments, or else we will not consider your application. Okay. So if you've not yet looked at the application form, this is what it looks like. There are personal and family details that we ask. There's a section on school academics from class 10th to 12th. There are standardized tests in case you have an SAT or ACT or a CUET score. If you don't, that's perfectly fine. These are not mandatory. There are non-academic engagements that we ask. So we ask you to tell us about what your other interests are apart from academics. We ask about your reading interest. Then there are personal essays. We have 2, which are very important, part of your application. And then we have a space for you to tell us a recommender's details. We are not asking for a recommendation letter from you or from your recommender to be submitted directly till we reach out to them. And then, of course, there are some questions on what major do you want to do, and some other survey-related questions, course preference and survey-related questions, and then a very important section on support requirements, which I will talk about. So let me just quickly walk you through these sections to allow you to probably even see why we're asking any of this, right? So, for example, the personal and family information we ask gives us some deep insights into your life, into your background, into your context. And one of the things you'll hear from me over and over again is the fact that context is very important for us. We'd like to know, our aim is to get to know you as much as possible. The application form is the primary and possibly the best way for us to know you, because there's so much information on that, right? So which is why we always say don't fill only the mandatory sections. If there's something that's non-mandatory that is relevant, please fill that as well. And then whatever documents and that you're supposed to submit, they should definitely be correct and valid, okay? So please note that. So the academic scores for us, the reason why they're important is because it helps us evaluate just the rigor and consistency of the applicant. We'd like to know how you did in your class 10. How did you fare in 11th? Did you take a break after your class 10 boards and not do your 11th very well at all? Or did you suddenly choose a bunch of subjects that you really like and then you've done, very well in class 11th, and how that has grown? Class 12th, we ask you for predictor scores in the absence of your final scores, in case you have not yet, which most of you are probably waiting to do your exams later this year. So we ask you to self-predict your scores, but there's also a space for your school to predict your scores. So if you're CBSE, ISC, or state board, and your school has predictor scores, they'll have to give it to you and you'll have to upload it. But if you're from Cambridge and IB, then the link will go directly to the school counselor or whoever in your school is submitting the predictor scores, okay? So please make sure that whatever you fill and what is on your attachments, on your documents, are exactly the same. So there's no discrepancy. Like I said, your SAT, ACT, CUET scores, we accept them, but they're not mandatory. If you have them and you want to submit them, we will also look at them as an important part of your application, but they're not mandatory. So if you don't have any of those, don't panic. We already have our Ashoka assessment that you need to take. And if you're a gap year student who has already finished school and you may be doing some other thing and you're interested, you're doing something interesting or you're exploring something else and you want to apply to Ashoka, please don't hesitate. We're perfectly fine with gap year students. We'd really like to know, though, what you've been doing, and that'll also help us get to know you better. Okay. So these two parts are very important in our non-academic activities and engagement. One is, what are you doing with your time, your resources, your energy outside of schoolwork, outside of the classroom, outside of academics, right? What sort of interests and passions are you pursuing in some sort of a consistent manner? So you may be doing a lot of things, but we need you to prioritize and tell us the top 3. You can include hobbies, personal interests, leadership positions, competitive level activities, any awards, internships, community service, anything that you're doing. Okay, so there's not a set list. It's really what you do, how you spend your time over and above academic life. There could be things that have certificates and collaterals or pictures or awards. So if you have done anything in a competitive level or leadership position, please attach collateral. If you've done something such as, say, baking, and just for your personal interest, or you're a reader and you just like to read and you've just been reading at home, right? And no one's giving you an award for those, that's perfectly fine as well. So it would just depend at what level of engagement you are doing these activities. But please don't attach a resume or a collation of over 3 certificates in a PDF, okay? So we want you to really prioritize and tell us what matters to you, why you've been doing this. There's a little description box as well, so that'll help. Like I said, reading is a big part of Ashoka. We want to see your comfort with just engaging with content from books and texts. So if you've watched a movie of a book, but not read the book, please don't put it down, okay? But we'd like to know what genres you're reading. You can tell us across genres, across different authors. It just depends on what you've really enjoyed. If you get shortlisted for the interview, you will have a conversation on it, okay? So please definitely put down authors and books that you've really enjoyed. 3 are mandatory. You can add an additional 2. And if you're a reader and you want to put down 5 books, that's fantastic. So the more, the better. Okay. I think this is a very important part of the application process, particularly for my team and me. We are very keen on trying to understand 2 things. So first thing that, so like I said, we have 2 essays, right? So first essay really highlights your thought process for us. So that's what we're looking for. So you can read the 2 prompts. In your first essay, you need to pick one. It's for 400 words, so that's a lot of words. Please don't submit an essay with, 50 words or 100 words. Use 400 words, maybe 350 can be your minimum. But we really want you to spend some time on this. So you pick one of these 2 topics. I'm not going to read them out. But what we really want to know and what we want to see you do is, one, address all the parts of the prompt, right? Ensure that you really understand the prompt. So read it well, understand it, come up with a little outline. And if you have written any essays, you'll know that it's always good to have a bit of an introduction. And then your body is where you're really addressing the prompt, right? Where your research shows up, where your opinions and views show up, where your different perspectives show up. And then, of course, you can conclude with what your final result is or your final conclusion is, right? So we'd really like to see and know how you're able to think, how you're able to reflect, how you're able to engage with the prompt. So the first prompt is really expected to be well researched. So you can pick one of the 2 and then 2 topics that are given and write one. The second prompt is really personal. So it's about you. And it's maybe a space for you to really share about something in your life that has really shaped you or, offered you a new perspective. So it's personal. It's really more about an important part of your life, which the application form probably doesn't offer in other spaces for. So again, please write your essays by yourself, have your ideas. You can get someone to help you in the end to clean it up or make it look, someone you trust to help you maybe put it in some sort of a better structure. But the content of it, the thought behind it, the idea, the research should really be based on your work and your effort. This would probably be the one part of the application that will take time. So I would say that please get to it, because this will take some amount of thinking, drafting, redrafting, and we just want you to ensure that you're able to really address the prompt, and also as the evaluation of the application happens, that the readers and the evaluators are able to really see your essay in light of your larger application as well. Okay. Some very quick things. The letter of recommendation, it's not mandatory, right? All we need from you is, if you have somebody in an academic or professional capacity to recommend you, please talk to them, ask them if you can submit their details, and then submit their details to us. It should be someone who can actually add value to your application. Should we reach out to them? So we're not reaching out to everybody, but we are reaching out to certain recommenders, right? So if you have a recommender, there's no pressure at this point from them, but you can just put down their details, and then we will reach out to them if we want some more information. So this is the process. So they don't need to worry about it as well till we reach out to them. So either we will ask them to submit a letter of recommendation through a link, or maybe through an email. And at some point, if we want to even have a conversation with them, we would do that. Then, of course, like I mentioned, there's a survey section, and where we ask you some things about your interactions with Ashoka in the past. We also ask you about the majors that you are interested in. So your first preferred major would be probably your topmost choice, but like I said, you can change your mind and declare your major only at the end of the third semester. So, but if you do get shortlisted for the interview, there will be conversations about various aspects of your application form, right, including your major. So be thoughtful about these things, think about it, and then put it. Okay. Very quickly, this part of the application form is a very important part. If you are somebody who requires support during the admissions process, during the assessments, or during the interview, or even later, if you do get admission and come to Ashoka, and you have, some requirements and needs that may have affected your student life or your academic life. For example, maybe English language assistance is what you need, or you have a disability or an impairment, right? Or a physical health condition or a mental health condition, or anything else that might require additional support. Please mention it. If you mention it, it's better and easier for us to support you. And then also during the admissions process, if you need compensatory or extra time, which is allowed by your school boards, which is allowed by during your board exams or your school, or you have a certificate for it. So please attach those, please let us know, and then we will also offer that. If you have language issues, or you come from certain schools and you need that extra time, we will evaluate. So we will evaluate all of these and then let you know if you are going to be eligible for extra time or compensatory time or not. But please mention it so that we can evaluate and then get back to you. There's also a space for you to mention anything confidential that has probably had an impact or has led to some sort of disadvantage to your educational or social or economic sort of circumstances. And so again, it's not mandatory, but if there's something you feel that you need to share with us, please note that we'll keep it confidential, but we'll also support you. It'll help us understand you better. Okay. So I'm just going to move on, and I know you'll have questions on this, so I won't get into the details, but the mandatory assessments have two parts. One is the on-the-spot essay, and one is the Ashoka aptitude assessment. So the on-the-spot essay is on the platform, it's all online. On the platform, you'll be given two prompts. You have 30 minutes. It's an essay format, so you pick one of the prompts, maybe give yourself a couple of minutes to read the prompts, decide which one you want to write on, spend 5 minutes in sort of planning and organizing your thoughts, and then write an essay. So the essay is going to evaluate your ability to think on your feet, think critically, able to communicate your thoughts in a clear manner, right? And also express a good and solid argument for whatever it is that you believe. And you'll realize that you don't really have to prepare for any of these. So the prompts would be in a way where you read it, you understand it, and then you're able to address them. The Ashoka aptitude assessment has 40 questions and you have 90 minutes. These are the standard time frames and not for the ones who need additional time. So those are different. But the 40 questions, 90 minutes remain the same. It's multiple choice. So again, it's evaluating your aptitude, your comprehension, your ability to think on your feet, problem solve. So, and some level of mathematics will be used till class 10th, but I just want to let you know that you don't have to be afraid of the mathematics that's used, right? We're really wanting to see if you're able to think logically, right? We're not quizzing you on your math skills. But if you have not studied mathematics from class 8 onward, like I know there are some students who may not have done mathematics, maybe in class 9 or 10, we'd still require you to attempt the whole, both the assessments, yes, essay and the aptitude assessment, but we will know that you have not done mathematics in school, if at all that is a requirement. So so total of 120 minutes, minimal preparation is required. So on the website, you can check for sample questions and prompts. Once that's done, like I mentioned, there's the admissions committee evaluates, shortlists, and candidates are called for an mandatory interview. It's all online. You'll be sent an interview invite and you can pick your preferred date and slot, and it'll be conducted on Zoom. So you need to show up for the interview. Again, you don't really have to prepare your interviews from your application form. It's about you. It's to get to know you better. It's to get to know your academic and non-academic interests. It's to try and understand your context and where you come from. So that's the interview. It will also, evaluate your various parameters. We want to know that you are suitable for Ashoka's academic program and Ashoka's residential life programs. Okay. So broadly, this is what the interview is about. Okay. We have our interview slots are for 45-minute slots. So usually the interview would be for around 25 to 30 minutes within that, but it can be a little longer or a little shorter depending on how the conversation goes. So the conversation is about you. So the more you engage and the more you are able to bring yourself, right, and be genuine and talk about your application, talk about yourself, the better and enriching the conversation will be. Okay. Like I said, a big part of what we do in our holistic assessment really happens within context. So the context is within your context, regardless of your background, regardless of where you come from, your educational experience. We want to get to know you in your context. And if you need any sort of support, if there's any sort of affirmative action or support required, then we will offer that based on whatever your context may be. I just want to close very quickly with a couple of slides here to talk about the kinds of decisions that you would get. So you, at the end of each round, within, in the round, there's a decision deadline. So you can get a firm offer of admission. And if you do, then you only need to pass your class 12. If you get a conditional offer, then you might have to meet your predictor scores. And then you'll get an auto convert to a firm offer if you meet those. Sometimes some of you could be placed on a wait list, and then later your wait list will be cleared depending on the availability of seats. Sometimes your decision will be deferred, where we will not give you a final decision, but we'll ask you to submit your class 12 final scores before we can make a final decision. And then, of course, some of you might be denied admission. So these are the decisions. And if you get an offer of admission, a firm offer of admission, then you can apply for need-based scholarship, right? Everyone can apply for it. There's a form that opens up, an application form. It is open for 5 days from the day you get your offer. These are merit cum means scholarships, and there are some merit cum means scholarships for high academic achievers, but mostly and broadly our need-based scholarship is also our financial aid. So it's not based on your merit. If you get an offer, you can apply. There are particular merit cum means scholarships, like the science merit cum means, which have a few scholarships available. And there's another one that has come up recently. So those have, a merit component. But for those, you'll hear more about it next week when the team does the session on the scholarships and the aid. So I won't get into it. But please note that if you get an offer of admission and you think that you need some form of support, right? Or your family can't support the entire amount, or regardless of what they can or they can't, please go ahead and apply. And there's a full process that evaluates your need, and scholarships are made. Okay, so this is just my last slide. What I just want to highlight is at the end of your 4 years at Ashoka, at the end of your program, what would be important for us as a university is to know that our students have had a transformative experience. So we want you to go away knowing how to think and not just what to think, right? But you've really learned how to think critically and analyze. And so how to think is very important for us, and not just, learning, mugging up, and just saying, okay, these are some facts and figures that I know. But we really want to believe that you'll go away knowing how to think about anything. we'd like you to leave with a being someone who can engage with all kinds of diversity, right? Someone who can just learn from others, regardless of where you meet them in life, whether they were your roommate, whether they were a classmate, whether they were a senior, a junior, a Didi Bhaiya on campus, or an administrative staff or a faculty member, regardless of who they are. If you've learned how to learn from all kinds of people, then hopefully you leave the institution learning from, being open to learning from all kinds of people outside as well. We hope also that you will learn how to deal with a lot of ambiguity at a place like Ashoka, learn how to prioritize, learn how to make the most of various opportunities, because there are so many opportunities that will come your way, but where you'll be open-minded and really learn how to navigate some essentials of life as well through its residential program. And learn how to agree to disagree, because not everybody is always going to agree with us. So learn how to agree to disagree, how to continue to remain in conversation in a community with them, and continue to remain and contribute towards society, but regardless of whether you agree on everything or not, right? And finally, just to walk away, finish Ashoka, graduate, and know that it's not just a degree. It's really a life-changing and hopefully a transformative experience. So this is what I want to leave you with. If you have more questions about the application process, our team is here to support you. So you can see the email ID that's there. There's a lot of content on the website as well. There's a helpline. And then, of course, the application form that you can apply at. So please look at all of these and definitely reach out, and someone will be there to help you.
Moshe, can you just keep the slide up for a second?
I'm sorry.
Sorry. So there are questions in the chat box, in the Q&A section, where somebody is actually asking where to connect with, because they're in a specific region in the country. So there's a helpline number, guys. Here we have team members across the country, right? So you just need to reach out on this particular number, and you'll be connected to the person sitting in your region. So just call us up. Our working hours are Mondays to Fridays. This number will be, you can call on this number from 9:30 to 5:30 in the evening. 9:30 in the morning to 5:30 in the evening, Mondays to Fridays only. We don't work on the weekends. That's the only problem. Sorry, but that's the only case. All right. So yeah, that's it. Moshe, I'm done. Good. So with that, I think let's give Moshe a breather. Been very, very kind to give us a very elaborate presentation. I think you've covered almost all questions. So I'm just going to cruise through the questions now. And in case anybody has any further queries, kindly start putting them in the Q&A box. We'll start asking Moshe those questions. So now, Moshe, just take a breather. There's one question that I'm going to answer. Is there any difference in the acceptance rates and admission chances in either of the rounds? Or is it only, the timelines are different? You've answered your own question, my friend. The timelines are different. The process remains the same for all the rounds. However, the reason why we asked you to apply a little earlier is because of your timelines. You don't really have time to this, because your board exams, the board date sheets this year, they somehow take you all the way to April. April 25th, we stopped taking applications for the undergraduate program for the year 2025, right? So you don't want to push it till the very last end. You still have a good 10 days time. You can still complete a good Ashoka application, so you don't have to worry about it much. Just fill in an application and let the entire process go on organically, and just take it from there. That's the only suggestion that I'll give you. Right? There is one more question. So, are scholarships affected by the series you submit your application? The series you submit your application in. Say, for example, if I submit my application in the January series rather than the one before it, would I be likely to earn scholarship before me? No. Again, whatever round you apply in, your application still goes through. In case you're able to get a confirmed offer of admission from us, any round it may be, we will still open the door for you for the financial aid, for the need-based financial aid. And in case you're applying for the sciences, then for the merit come means scholarship for the sciences as well, right? Because just for everyone's information, Ashoka happens to be one of the biggest philanthropic initiatives of the country today. every year, nearly 50% of our classes on financial aid. Of course, we're going to be talking about all of this next week as well, so please do tune in there as well. But just to let you know, just last year, approximately 100 crores were raised to make sure that anybody and everybody who deserves an Ashoka education can also afford it, right? So, application, applying for it, and making sure that you prove your mettle to us is on you. But your fees happens to be a conversation between us and your parents. So don't worry about it. Okay?
So I just want to add one thing here, Brinda. I think it
Hanji.
was to your previous question that
Hanji.
if you are applying in this round in on January 15th, please make sure that you're available on January 25th to take your assessments. Because if you're not available and you're not in a position to take the assessments, then your application won't be considered. If there is some sort of an emergency that happens, then at that point you can drop an email to the admissions team and let them know. But if there's no emergency and if you are just submitting an application form, then it'll get. We're expecting that you're writing the assessments on the 25th. So please make a note of that and plan ahead.
Yeah. Okay, so Masha, a question which is a little different from the rest of the presentation. There is a supported Ashoka section, right? And in that supported Ashoka section, we've also talked about learning disabilities and other disabilities that the students might have. There is
Yeah.
one particular student who's asking about is it necessary to address past disorders such as ADHD experiences during my primary ages or not? Because I feel that it might affect my application going further.
So, I don't believe that any of these, particularly these learning disorders that one is diagnosed with, that they go away. So I don't know if they are necessarily in the past. If it's something that you struggle with and you've required additional time in school or you require that sort of support, then it will definitely affect your application form, but more for the positive, right?
Yeah.
Not negatively, because then we will support you. We can't support you if we don't know. So, in fact, the reason we ask is so that you're not at a disadvantage, right? Um, but if you don't require any support, that's fine. You can let us know that you have, a certain condition, but you have never required support, or you're okay and you don't require support. So there are two parts in that section. If you see, the first part is to let us know what you may have, and the second part of it is to let us know if you need any support. So there are many students who tell us that, I have this diagnosis, but I have been managing quite well and I don't need. So for example, I can tell you there are visually impaired students who don't want a scribe because they're very comfortable on the computer, they're comfortable doing their own assessments, and they don't feel the requirement for a scribe. We offer them that support, or if they have a scribe, but they say they don't need it and they're happy to just do the assessment on their own, and we ask them if they want some extra time, like what sort of help can we give them, right? So my point is that the reason we ask is so that we can support you. Another aspect to this, and this is a very important part of the application also, because when you go to, if you do get an offer of admission and you do decide to come to Ashoka and you go to campus, right, it's going to be very rigorous. And at that point, should you need any support, it will help us to know now. Because if you get an offer of admission, we will connect you to our Office of Learning Support, or we will connect you to our Center for Wellbeing, or whoever we think might be able to really assist you. And sometimes just to the Office of Student Affairs, because you may have a physical health condition which requires some sort of support on campus, right? So these are things that we do, and we do it very meticulously. So please don't think that it's going to work against your application. It's only going to help you, right? Your all other areas of evaluation will remain the same, but this will at least offer some additional support if you require it.
Yeah. Perfect. All right. So, Masha, I think what we're going to do is now we're going to club questions. Okay. Because there are a lot of.
Okay.
So let's save on time and a little bit of your throat. Uh, so if there isn't a certificate for any activity that I've done, or an extracurricular, what should be attached in this application? And how important are proofs of any activity?
So the extracurricular for us is to see how you have engaged outside of your classroom, right? If you've done something competitive and you say that, I have played at the district level or the state level, some sport, for example, but you don't have anything to show for it, then we do make a note when the application is read, because then that's not, if you're saying you've done something competitive, then you would have received something, right? But if you've said that you've just done something at home for a personal, in a personal capacity, then we're sure that you won't have anything. So the proof is important if you're claiming something.
Yeah.
If you're not claiming, if you're claiming that it was not done in any sort of professional capacity, then we're okay. We're not asking you for that. We're trying to get to know you, right? So what will really not work in your favor is if you're claiming something but you don't have any way to prove that, and then that does not make your application or you then look good, right? So if you have, but on the other hand, like I know maybe you did play for some inter school level or something, but you didn't get a certificate for it. There is a little box there that you can mention. There's a box for details. You can mention that I played, but I didn't get a certificate. Or maybe it was during COVID years, you participated in something online, you never got hold of that certificate. It's fine. I mean, we'll understand that, but as long as you mention it.
All right.
Yeah. So how you will attach that, if an attachment is mandatory, then you would probably have to put down this note on a Word document and then upload that, just so that the person who's evaluating an application can actually see what happened.
Of course. All right. So now moving on to the LOR. Can we have more than one recommender?
So we only need details for one recommender. And also we don't need the LOR from them to be submitted. That's not your responsibility anymore. All your responsibility is for you to ask them if they're willing to recommend, be a recommender, should the Ashoka admissions office reach out to them. So if they say yes, then get their details, put down their details correctly, and then we'll contact them.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. All right. Along with that, I also have one more question which says, is it mandatory that the person that I given as my recommender should still be teaching at my school because this person isn't?
No, not necessarily. As long as you have known them and worked with them or studied with them, or they've been a counselor in a academic setting or a professional setting, like maybe an internship, or they were in your school, and we understand people move, so that's fine. They don't have to still be present. So that's totally fine.
And I think we can also take a recommendation from somebody that we're just working under and we're not even applying for that particular subject, right?
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I get this
absolutely.
question a lot that I'm applying for psychology, so should my psych teacher write me a recommendation? That's not mandatory, guys. It's
No, it
perfectly
doesn't have to be a psychology teacher. Like so many times, it'll just be the school counselor,
Yeah.
or as long as it's not your family member or a relative or a friend, that's not really helpful for us. So
Perfect. All right. Okay, I have more than three. Sorry, I'm going back to
sure.
extracurriculars because suddenly a question popped
Yeah.
up, which says I have a lot of activities and a lot of certificates. I'm not able to finalize just three. So, what sort of activities are you looking at so that I can prioritize?
We're looking at the activities that you prioritize, that you can prioritize. We're not looking at any sort of activities. We're not even looking at unique activities. We're looking at activities where you've engaged, preferably for a longer period of time, but something that you're really passionate about, right? You could have done, like I always give this example because I think about it a lot. I know I've interviewed a lot of students who have played a certain sport or who have done a certain dance form from a very young age or played a certain instrument. And if you ask them, like, would they continue doing that if they were at university, and they say no, or they don't really want to do it because some of it was they've done it for 10 for 12 years or 15 years, but it was really something that they were pushed into doing. They don't necessarily love it, right? That's not a great activity for me, to be honest. I would rather you say something that you picked up in 2 years, which you really love and you're passionate about, and you can talk about, right? And put that. But maybe you are very passionate about something you've done for 15 years, and that's okay as well. So I think what we're really trying to understand is who are you as a person over and above all these academic things that we can see, right? Because we want to, and the reason we ask for some sort of proof in some cases is because if they're competitive or there are awards, then we want to sort of corroborate. But if your activities are purely personal and you've done them for a long time, or even a short time and you're really passionate about it, why not? For example, if you're into calligraphy, right, and you picked it up, say, last summer, but you've done a lot of it, like you've over the last, say, year, you can take pictures and just attach them as well. It will also add to your application and your interview. So you've got to think about it in that sense where, what sort of contribution, maybe it'll even add to some sort of contribution you can make on campus as a student. So talk about the things that you really value and that you really care about. So don't worry about us, really. It's really about you.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I generally tell the students that I talk to ever is that this is your storybook, guys. We don't know you. You're the protagonist. So you tell us what you want to tell us about you. Another thing is that sometimes if you're like that confused that I've done so many things in the past 2 years and I really want to put all of them, you can club one or two activities together and put them under one head. But please don't bombard them with a lot of certificates, with a lot of letters. Trust me on this one. Okay, I will be the
Okay, let me answer this, Rinda, before you tell them something else I don't want you to tell them.
No, I'm not telling them.
Don't club your activities. The way you should do it is, for example, if you have participated in a lot of, say you play football and you've participated in a lot of levels of football, right? Then we'd say pick the level that is of the highest on the rung.
Yep.
Right, and then you can put those certificates, and put a maximum of 3 certificates in one PDF, right? So then you can pick the top 3 if it is one. But if you're saying that I've been doing a couple of different activities that are very similar, right? If they're very similar, which I think is kind of rare to find, but maybe you're doing scuba diving and something else which are quite similar.
And debating together.
Yeah, or MUN and debating, which could work, because while they're two very different things, they're also quite similar. That could be something that you could possibly club, because that gives us a sense of who you are, what really matters to you. But but try not to obviously don't club things that have no correlation, because the reason that we've brought down the activities to 3, it was not 3 in the past, but it is 3 now, is because we want you to prioritize. So if you don't know how to prioritize, talk to people in your life who will help you prioritize. But the prioritizing is actually helpful for you as well.
Perfect. Okay. Wow. Okay. Now I have a lot of questions for the assessment, Masha. Not one or two, but like a lot of them.
You want to read a few of them and then I can get to them.
I'm just going to do that. Okay. So is there a benchmark score you need to exceed in the AAA to pass the further rounds of admission? How hard is it to crack the assessment? Is using the mobile to take the assessment okay? Will our CUET scores be enough for the assessment, or is it completely mandatory to give the Ashoka aptitude assessment?
Okay.
Yeah, and I have 2 more questions, but I think we can take these first.
Okay, first of all, you cannot use your mobile phone for the assessment. So that's out. Secondly, so it's only, you cannot use an iPad as well. It's just a laptop or a computer, desktop. So if you don't have a laptop or a desktop, please go to a cyber cafe, ensure that you have a quiet corner, and then you take that. But you'll have to be in the room alone if you're at home. We understand the cyber cafe constraints, but you'll have to have a working audio and video. So otherwise, your test will not be taken into consideration. You have to take the Ashoka aptitude assessment for your application to be considered. It doesn't matter if you've got the SAT, the ACT, and the CUET. You've got to take the Ashoka aptitude assessment. So if you don't take it, then your application will be annulled. So you won't have that opportunity to, be considered for the interview round at Ashoka. How much you have to prepare? Was that one of the questions? Okay. So like I had mentioned, the on-the-spot essay and the Ashoka aptitude assessment happen at the same time, one after the other. So first you do the on-the-spot essay, then you get a 5-minute break, and then you do the Ashoka aptitude assessment. You can't prepare for any of them. If you want to know what sort of questions there are, the genre, the type, just to get familiarity, you can look at the website and there are some sample questions. But apart from that, there's no guide to crack to how to attempt these. They're focused on just critical thinking, logical reasoning. So it's aptitude, right? You can't really train yourself for aptitude. You got to be fully present there. You've got to read the prompt, try and understand it in a logical manner, and address it. I want to say that there is nothing called cracking the exam. Okay? So please don't think of cracking. It's not an entrance exam. So it is an assessment that we want you to do. We are looking at various aspects of your application form. So you may not have done fantastically in the assessment. That's okay. We look at other parts of your application as well. You may have done fantastically only in your assessment and done really poorly in all other parts of your application form. Please note that we are considering looking at that as well. So it's not about just you, cracking some entrance exam. It isn't an entrance exam. So I think we'd like to know how you're able to think on your feet, right, at that moment. So I would say that don't panic. When you panic, then you will not be able to do what we really want you to do. So ideal would be to enter into the assessment, be calm, read the prompts, whether it's the essays or whether it's the assessment, the aptitude assessment, whatever the prompt is, read it, breathe, try and understand it, and then respond to it. And that, I think, works out very well because you are naturally intelligent and you don't need to mug up anything. There's no requirement, prerequisite to attempting the assessments. So I don't know if I can say it any more clearer, but please don't panic. And if there is any technical glitch on that day, if there is any sort of issue, you just need to call us or email us. We are going to send you all the details on how you can contact us on that day. Our team is there for the entire duration of the day. We even send you a demo link prior to the assessment, like a few days before, for you to test it out in case you're worried about the platform, in case you're worried about your compatibility of your laptop. So all details are sent to you. And I know that reading emails is not something that most of you probably enjoy, but I think you have to get used to it. You will get a lot of emails from us. And generally in life as an adult, there are just a lot of emails to be read. So please read your emails. Please follow instructions. Don't panic. If you have any questions, reach out to us and we will help you. Okay?
Yes. And just a tip, guys, the admissions team will only send you emails. They do not pick up the phone and call you. So please make sure that you are reading your emails and you are checking your emails at least once a day, either first thing when you wake up or before you go to bed, so that you don't miss out on emails. Because deadlines is also something that we take very seriously. If you've been told to select a particular slot by a particular timestamp, they will not proceed further beyond that, right?
Yeah. I just want to add that on the day of the assessment, we have phone lines. So don't panic prior to that, we don't use phones. We send everything by email. But on the day of the assessment, we have opened up phone lines. There's also a technical team, a tech team that helps us. So you can reach out to them for technical issues. Any other issues, you can reach out to us. The whole team is available on that entire day for assessments. So just want to let you know that we are, and so there's no reason to panic, right? Even if there's a slight delay or if there's some sort of an issue.
Perfect. So, Moshe, you've already answered this particular question, but I'm still taking it so that we can reiterate the importance of this particular aspect. If I have a board practical on the 25th of January, would I be allowed to take the assessment on a later date?
So actually the assessment timing which I didn't mention in my presentation, is from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So you need to select a slot. We send you out a slot for you to just pick, which is you can select if your board practical is in the morning, then please select a slot that's late in the afternoon or early evening so that you can come back home and then take that. If you think your practical is like the entire day and you can't take your assessment on the 25th, please don't submit your application form in this round. Okay, submit it in the next round because that's not helpful for you or for us. Right? So although I would say that if you think that your board practical will be done, you'll be back home by 2 o'clock, you'll have your lunch, then you can log in at like 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, whatever time slot that you pick. And that will really just help you as well. Yeah, I think, but if you're 100% sure that you can't, then please don't submit your form in this round. If there's an emergency on that date, most likely what will happen is that you will then be pushed to, your application won't be considered within this round. Then we'll have to move your application to the next round anyway. But then you cannot submit another application form. The application form that you've submitted now is what you'll have to use. So then I would say just be, if it's not an emergency, if it's something that you know already, then be smart about it and then move it to the next round anyway. Don't submit it in this round.
Makes sense. Okay, so essays, I think I can see one very important question, essays, which says, should the essays in the application form show my technical knowledge or skills in the subject or portray my personality? What is more important?
So your first essay is really about how you think. So we're hoping that you will show us that you have the ability to think, the ability to research, the ability to come up with an argument, and to portray, to tell us what's really in a more sort of research manner. Your second essay is about something that's personal. So we're hoping that would be personal and would talk about something about yourself. So but your first essay, we're not just looking for a personal essay. We really want it to be to showcase that you have the ability to sort of engage with the prompt and to be able to think and research and write.
Of course. All right. So I think the other questions in the essays you already answered, Musha.
Okay.
We're not going there. We're coming to the SATs. Okay. Is it better to apply with an SAT, and is an SAT score mandatory? You've answered this question, but we're still reiterating this.
The SAT score is not mandatory. If you don't have an SAT, most students who apply to us don't necessarily have an SAT score. So don't worry about it. Please don't take an SAT, just for us. We don't want you to take the SAT just for us. We have our own assessment, which you have to do, which is mandatory. So the SAT or ACT, if you've taken it already and you have it and it's a good score that you want to tell us, we will consider it. But if you don't have it, then please don't take it just for Ashoka.
Perfect. And there's one question, Masha, that we keep getting across the rounds, basically, is that I've gone through the university's site and everything, and you guys also accept super scores, but there's only one mark sheet that we get, which is basically a scorecard. So which one should we put in?
I don't know if you know what a super score is, but a super score is basically if you've taken the SAT more than once. So if you've taken the SAT 2 times, then you have the opportunity to put those attachments. And so we will calculate the super score if there's no if there is a space for you to put it. If you can calculate it and put it, then we will. But then you can do it. But otherwise, we will also we also double check.
All right. So now coming to the prediction part. First of all, there's one question which says, do we take CUET exams? Guys, we don't. We do not take your CUET score, so you don't have to worry about it.
We do take, sorry. Oh no, we do. So if you have a CUET score the previous year that you've taken, you can submit it. If you have a CUET, so currently, because the problem is the CUET exam happens in like June or May, and it's just kind of all over the place. We have it as a section in our application form. If you've already taken it last year, for example, because you say you finished school last year, please submit your CUET scores. If you've not taken it this year, then there might be you'll have to indicate whether you plan to take it or not. And it's okay if you've indicated that you're taking it but you don't take it, or if you indicate that you don't want to take it and you later decide and you take it, right? I think there is a way for you to, you'll have to declare that you're going to take the CUET, even to the CUET itself. So if you are taking it, if we want to know your CUET scores, we will send you a link and we will ask you to submit the scores at the end of whenever you get your CUET scores.
Yep. All right. Another thing is, okay, so there's one student who's still confused about the self-prediction score, the self-predicted part. Can you please explain it again?
So self-prediction score is because you don't have your class 12 scores, but we do have your 10th and 11th. We want to see academic consistency and we want to see how you think you're going to do in your class 12. But so whether you tell us or your school counselor tells us, you're basically predicting for each course, right? Each subject. Um, so predict as close as you think you're going to get, right? Don't under predict, don't over predict. Predict moderately, but please know that no decisions, no offers are made based on your predictor scores. But it helps us get an idea about where you think you may do far better than you've predicted, or you may do far poorer than you've predicted. But it gives us an idea of what you think, how your preparation is going towards your final exams.
Exactly. And just for everybody's understanding, guys, you can also get a school predicted score or a self-prediction score. We accept both. So you don't have to necessarily go to your school and get a school predicted score only. Another thing is, for Cambridge and for IB, it's mandatory to give us your school predicted scores. However, for CBSE and ICSE, it's perfectly fine if you don't give us a school predicted score. A self-prediction score works.
Yeah. But we also do ask Cambridge and IB and everybody to give a self-predictor score. So at least you have an opportunity to declare what you think you might be getting, even though your counselors and schools are also predicting.
Of course. All right. Interview. So how flexible is the interview process, Marsha?
I don't think I understand that question. What does that mean by flexible?
By flexible, I mean, I think what they mean is this, I'm assuming, is a student who's sitting for their board exams in February. So they want.
So it's 45 minutes, right? You get to pick a slot, you get to pick your time. So I don't think it's flexible after that. It's as flexible as it can get. We're not sending you a slot, we're not sending you a time. We're saying we're inviting you to the interview and we're giving you a bunch of, so if you get the interview invitation, you should get into your portal and open it up and see what slots are available, and you should book your slot based on what's convenient for you. Exactly. And if it's convenient for you, we will honor your commitment. If there is some change from our side, which is very, very rare, somebody will call you and maybe ask you for an alternative time that works for you. But that's very rare. But 99%, it's really what you pick. And we'd expect you to show up 10 minutes before the interview and be online and wait for the panel to let you into the interview call.
Of course. All right. The other questions for interview, again, Marsha, you've already answered. So I'm just going to take a few subject-specific requirements right now, basically subject-specific questions that these guys have. These are not even requirements. Does the acceptance rate differ from major to major depending on the number of applicants coming for that particular major?
No, not at all. Like I said, you do say what major you want to do, but we don't hold you to it, right? So you can change your mind. So it would be very hard for us to have specific numbers. So we don't have that. We make offers based on a very thorough and holistic evaluation of candidates where we think that they would do well in a place like Ashoka. You can stick to the major that you signed up for, that you prefer, that you mentioned as your first preference, or you can change your mind. And you have those 3 semesters to really explore, right? So you explore various courses and you decide what you want to do by the end of the 3rd semester. So we don't have a specific number of seats or acceptance rate based on majors.
All right. Give me 1 second. Let me just go through a few more FAQs. Okay. We're doing very well on time, Marsha. All right.
Happy to know that.
No, I mean it, because we just answered some very, very long answer questions. All right. So, okay. Is Cambridge students, is English mandatory in the 3 A levels that they submit to you?
So, no. We don't have a mandatory English. I think for Cambridge students in class 11, you need to have 4 subjects. And in class 12, you just need to have 3. And English does not need to be one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I think
I saw one question, Rinda, about English language, actually. And I just want to say that, all the courses at Ashoka, the classes, the academic experience and journey is English based, right? It's an English medium. It could be unfortunate or fortunate, but that's the medium of teaching and learning and assignments and everything else, right? If you're somebody who wants to learn Hindi as a language, sometimes they have it as a co-curricular subject, which you can learn as a language, but your classes will not be taught in Hindi. Having said that, if you come from a school that's teaching, even if you're an English medium school or if you're not from an English medium school, where you're learning from, you're using more vernacular or more like, state languages or other languages, if you get an offer of admission, then we will support you as much as possible from our side prior to the start of university as well, and also during the course of your university. So we do have, I have interviewed a lot of students who really struggle with English language, but they do well in the assessment, in the application round, and they make it to the interview. And we've found a lot of ways to support them at Ashoka, and they've done well and they've graduated. So if that is a concern, please don't be worried. Don't hold yourself back from applying. If you do well enough and you do get an opportunity to get an offer of admission, then we will help you in whatever way possible. Please mention in the application form, in the support section, there is a request for English language assistance. So if you're concerned about that and if you want that support, then you can click, you can check that box, and then we will help you.
Perfect. So, Mosha, any last comments? Because I think we're done with questions.
No, I think this has been good. I just hope that as you fill the application form, right, and round 2 is coming up, the deadline's coming up. I think my last comments really are always the same, that please fill your form thoroughly. Spend time on all aspects of the form, mandatory, non-mandatory. Spend time on the essays. The reason is because we read your application forms. We take time to read the app forms. So we don't do, there's no cutoff based, offer or shortlist. Application forms are read. There are comments and evaluations and scores at every section of your application form. So, and because we do holistic admissions, you may not be, fantastic in all parts of your form or your assessments, but that's why it helps, because you might be really good in some things, may not be so good in others. But when we look at it completely, and if the committee will decide to see, and if they think that you have the potential for the interview and for Ashoka, then you will get that opportunity. So don't hold yourself back, but also make sure that you fill the application form and show up for the assessments. Those are 2 very important parts, and do it well and enjoy it. I think at the end of it, for us, we really want you to enjoy the process as well. It shouldn't be scary. Like, your interviews should also be conversations that you go back and you enjoy. Because I can tell you from the other side that when the team interviews students, where, it's been a fantastic sort of interaction where they have learned something themselves, like my team or I as well. Even today I was interviewing a student, and I thought that they were brilliant, and I learned so much from that conversation. It's great. It's a great experience for us as well, right? So we're hoping that you would also look at it as an experience. Whether you get admission or not at the end, that's a different matter, right? But the process should always be enjoyable. It shouldn't be anxiety inducing. And I know that parents, and if there are parents here, I just want to say, parents, families, guardians, sometimes you are more anxious than the students, right? So please don't be. I think students of today's generation are fantastic. They're really bright. So just do your best and enjoy it, and then, and see where it goes. So I think those are my last words. Thank you, Vrinda.
Thank you, everyone. Mosha. And thank you so much for taking out the time today, because as you said, you were still interviewing today. Taking out time from your very busy schedule. Thank you so much. All right. So thank you for joining us for Ashoka's Admissions Toolkit webinar. I hope this session was helpful in understanding more about Ashoka's holistic admission process. Before we wrap up the session, we would really appreciate if you could please take a minute to share your valuable feedback with us. The link to the feedback form is provided in the chat box. Please note that the recording of this session will be available on Ashoka's YouTube channel in case you would like to share it with your friends or refer to again. Our next webinar, Scholarships at Ashoka, is scheduled for Friday, 10th January at 6 p.m. with the Office of Financial Aid. Join us to get to know all about Ashoka University's need-based and merit-cum-means scholarship programs. A few last points before we wrap up today's session. The last date to submit your application in round 2 of Ashoka's undergraduate program is 15th of January. You can secure your admissions even without 12th board marks or COET. If you have any further queries regarding various other aspects of the university, feel free to write to us at ugapply@ashoka.edu.in or call on the number shown on your screen. Once again, thank you, Masha, for taking out the time to participate in this discussion. This brings us to the end of this session. I wish all of you luck and all the very best.